to help us get our heads around kind of what this alignment thing is all about, we're going to explore it through 3 key leadership roles: the role of architect, the role of builder, and the role of crusader. To keep it simple for me, which my wife always likes, in essence, the ABCs of leadership and management. Let's start with the architect. What's an architect do? Designs. Exactly. To get everybody on a common base here, what I'd like to do is share with you kind of some research as to how good of a job the architects are doing. I mean, generally, you could think of the CEO in an organization as the CAO, kind of Chief Architect Officer, if you will. So, going back to Gallup, does anybody know what the Gallup Q12 is? It's an employee engagement survey that's been done. Asked 12 questions. I would strongly suggest Googling it. It's a very powerful tool. Gallup's been doing it for several decades, and they've been tracking results domestically, internationally, and all. And what it tells you is what the degree of engagement is, employee engagement is in any given organization. And then they do the studies that say, okay, if it's a highly engaged organization, how do they perform versus those who are not engaged? So that's where we got the data from the previous stuff. Definition. What's the difference between an engaged employee and a satisfied employee? Is the mic on again? Okay. Performance. Okay. One aspect.
It has to do with their
Passion.
passion.
Loyalty. Anything else? Commitment. Creativity. Yep. Perfect. Accountability. The way to think about a satisfied employee, kind of in the worst case scenario, I come in at 9, I leave at 5, I take my lunch every day, I take my vacations, I add no value, I'm 100% satisfied on a survey. Okay? An engaged employee understands the business, is connected to the business, believes in the cause, if you will, and will run through that wall for you. So now, do you want a satisfied employee or do you want an engaged employee? Well, guess what? You don't get engaged employees if your business isn't aligned, and we're gonna take you through how that works. Here's what's sickening, frankly, and these numbers vary maybe plus or minus 1% a year, but in the surveys they do, 28% of the employees are engaged. 54% are not engaged. 18% are actively disengaged. That's a troubling group. Gallup will tell you that probably around $400 million a year is lost, and these are people that are consciously undermining businesses. They're folks in the manufacturing operation that are throwing a wrench in the works to stop it. Chronic complainers, exactly. And what's terrible, they a year ago did a kind of a histogram on this thing over the last 15 years, and these numbers didn't change. So if you look at this, and if the benefits of having an aligned business and engaged employees are so great, what's the problem? What's the problem here? What's going on? Inc. A while ago did a survey. 500 CEOs and their teams asked these 3 questions. My leadership team agrees with and can clearly communicate my company's strategy. Everyone is held accountable for performance. And my employees can clearly state my company's value proposition. Now, what do you think the CEOs responded? Sure, exactly. You bet. Heck yes. What do you think the employees and the teams responded? Any questions? We're done. No. Here's the results. On the question of strategy, 92% of the CEOs said heck yes. 2% of the leadership teams agreed that they understood and could clearly communicate the strategy. See a little alignment issue there, do we? In the terms of accountability, better. But here's one interesting one. The value proposition was actually asked of the people, all the people in the business. And about 88% of the CEOs said, heck yes, my team, all my people understand the value prop. 7% said they did. So if this is what's going on in the corner office,
What's interesting is a bunch of the CEOs didn't understand the
Well, Dennis, you raise a great point, okay, because we have another saying in the firm. You're going to get a number of these pearls of wisdom at no extra charge, and justify the fee that Nancy charged for this wonderful event. But we have a saying that if it's kind of like in Fred's head, I can't tell you the number of prospects we talk to. Do you have a strategy? Oh, of course. Really? Well, where is it? Well, it's in Fred's head. And we respectfully respond and say, if it ain't in writing, it doesn't exist. Because you can't communicate it, right? And you can't, and we're huge believers in continuous improvement. Well, if you don't document the as-is state, how do you know how to tweak it and improve it? How do you know what progress you're making? It just doesn't work that way. So you're absolutely right, Dennis. Thank you. Harvard did a study a couple years ago. 667 managers managing knowledge workers. Study over 2 years, over 12,000 diary entries. So they're talking to the employees and their teams and things of that nature. And what they were focused on is gaining an understanding of how, from an importance standpoint, these 5 dimensions drove engagement. Okay, so incentives, recognition, clear goals, making progress, and interpersonal support. Okay, so those were the 5 items. What do you think the manager said was numero uno? Ding, ding, ding. Number 1 response by managers, recognition. Okay. What do you think the people said? Progress, ding, ding, ding. Okay. Number 1 response by employees, making progress. Now here's what's interesting. A lot of other research, we're not going to go through it here, but it's fascinating. I mean, a lot of these data points highly correlate. We're blessed with the most highly educated workforce in the history of mankind. Very different needs from a social standpoint, money, the whole idea of, I'm going to retire, white picket fence stuff, which is what my dad and grandpa aspired to, is not at all what's going on today. Yet, we're still managing, we're still leading as if it was. Okay, so I think part of the gap that exists here, and the next one's kind of a shocking thing, guess what? The managers ranked dead last, making progress. So the most important thing to the people is the last thing on the managers' minds. So you got CEOs that are out of touch, right, or have a very different perception of reality, and you've got middle managers who don't understand on a day-to-day basis what's important to their people. The other thing that Gallup has learned, and you can read this better in the handout, but Gallup says the employee's understanding of how their roles fit with the business strategy is the basic factor in engagement. They want to be part of a cause. They want to be part of something bigger. They want to make a difference. They want to make progress. And if only 2% of the leadership teams agree with and can communicate the strategy, it's no wonder, that you've got a situation like this. So, you look at these data points, and there's piles more that support this. You start to get a sense as to why, number 1, why so few businesses are engaged, why the 28% has been right around 28-30% of engaged employees over the years, over the decades. Okay, but I tend to turn that around, and you'll see on some of the things, we believe in strengths and opportunities. There are no problems. Problems are to be solved, they turn into opportunities, right? So the opportunity is, if you believe that business alignment is the right thing to do and can make a difference, you can create a no-cost, I repeat, no-cost competitive advantage. Because there's a lot of people out there that either don't believe it, don't care, don't have the time, or whatever.